Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today, I have the pleasure to chat with American country singer-songwriter, NBC The Voice Season 17, and American Idol Season 21 contestant Marybeth Bird. In this news episode, Marybeth joined me to talk about her single Jesus in Jail, experiences on American Idol, The Voice, what it's like being an on-air personality at Jonesboro Radio Group, life growing up in Armorel, Arkansas, songwriting session with 6020 Music Team, her love for Elvis Presley, and more. Now, with that being said, hope you enjoy my conversation with Marybeth. Hello, Marybeth.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
No, honestly, it's great to be able to talk to you because I've known you from The Voice
Mhm.
a while back.
Yeah.
And I saw you on Idol on the audition, I guess the audition teaser that they posted. And I said, "Wait a minute, I know that girl." And so I guess you're no stranger to competitions like that, but first and foremost, I want to also talk about that. We were actually just talking about before we started recording that you graduated recently. So talk to us about that and how does it feel?
Absolutely. I've always wanted to go to college, and I know that strategic communications, that field is so broad, and I'm a person of many layers. I'm one of those people, I'm like, I am passionate about so many different things. I don't know how I'm going to decide on a job. And so strategic communications, that field of study just had the most broad range. So I ended up going to college for 4 years online at A State here in Arkansas. And I just recently graduated. And so it feels good. It feels good to just kind of have that checked off my list.
What else have you not been able to check off your list?
Do what? I'm sorry.
What else have you not been able to check off the list, I guess, in terms of bucket list items?
Um, things that there's so much that I want to do. I want to travel the world, all the things that a young 20-year-old would want to do. I'm one of those people, I like to just accidentally move a million miles an hour. And my parents are like, slow down, sister. You have plenty of time. But there's lots of things. I'm actually currently working on my music harder than I ever have. So definitely on my bucket list first.
Obviously, that's been a huge importance for you. And I recently had on a lot of the American Idol, your fellow contestants and your fellow friends of American Idol. I've had recently Elise Christine on, um, and we were joking around about. We kicked off the interview by talking about the picture of you and her, um, and I was like, what
There's
is
no
going on?
telling what it
I was
was.
I was like, what is going on in that picture? Because Elise just looks like she's like the motherly figure in that picture, and I'm saying, man, what is going on? So
Oh
we, so
man.
so we talked about that, but let's talk about that in your perspective. What is a friendship with Elise?
It's so funny because you go into a competition like that and you're so focused. You have that focal point on the end goal of your career and reaching, all these different things. And then you get into it and you're like, wait, it's not about winning. The main, winning prize. You've already won through the friendships and through the skills gained and the exposure and the experience, all these things. And my friendship with Elise was one of those things that are just absolutely priceless. It's so funny when we first met in Hollywood a week, we met in passing but didn't really click. And then further into the competition, we got to go to Hawaii together and really just, I found a love for her as like a little sister because she's younger than me. And, it's just nice to build those friendships. And also Megan Danielle is really one of my good friends as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were on a cruise vacation, and we were I was tracking what was happening on Idol at the same time, and um, very early on the cruise vacation, I found out that obviously Ian Tongi won
Mhm.
American Idol and being crowned the champion. I mean, what a character, Ian Tongi, and what his story has been for the American Idol season this year. What do you think of Ian Tongi? I mean, is there anything particular that's stuck out to you about him?
For me, I've always found that the people who go into these competitions without the thought of winning are the ones most likely to win. When your eyes are solely focused on, the right reasons of being there, that's going to put you farther along in the end. And Ian was one of those guys, he's just so down to earth and he was literally there for his dad and for his family, and he just had a pureness about him. He wasn't in there to be cutthroat and to knock everybody else down and to, do all these things that some people get into these competitions for. He's just so genuine, and I think that that's what America saw too. And I personally, from his audition, I was like, that guy's gonna win. I knew it. I knew it. And I think everybody else did too, which was, it's just a really special season to be a part of, and I'm glad that I was.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like I guess when did you know that Ian was the one at the end of the day?
Just, as I previously mentioned, I really do think it was when I watched his audition. I was like, wow, like that guy just, I mean, I just knew, I was like, America's gonna love him. And after meeting him in Hollywood Week, that's when I knew, I was like, this guy's in it for the right reasons. He's just doing it because he loves it. And there's a rawness about him as an artist that is so rare these days. It's so rare, and he has it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one of the most powerful moments during EM's journey was when I felt like when he won, the moment I knew that he won was when I guess when his guitar broke, and he sort of broke down, and he was saying that this was his dad's, spent all his paychecks to give me that guitar. And he promised him that he would use it throughout his whole journey on American Idol. And then it broke, and he's like breaking down about it. And I guess the whole thing about EM is just heartwarming to hear his story. But also, I thought it was so cool that he ended the competition season with "Don't Let Go."
Mhm.
I mean, that was the perfect winning song you could ever choose out of anything.
Agreed.
Because it's groovy. People are having a good time, and that's a good time song. And so I want to talk about your life growing up in Armorel, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, is there different pronunciations on how you pronounce that place, or what's the right
It's
pronunciation?
we've always called it Armorel. Armorel. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because I remember I was talking to somebody about El Dorado, and they said it's um
El Dorado.
El Dorado. Yeah. Um, why is that? Is there just something with different pronunciation of different places, I guess?
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, as somebody that's been doing radio for, I guess, for quite some time with Jonesboro, what's the
Mm.
job like, and do you ever get some rest?
The job is a lot of fun. I will say I've actually taken a break from radio to focus on my music. But it was such a fun job, just getting to connect with the audience and talk into the microphone about things that, it was just my show, which felt really good. And a lot of people connected me with me by, me being myself and being so real, which growing up, I had a really bad stutter, and there was a part of me that always wanted to hide from people because of the bullying and because of, all the things that hindered me from showing my true self as a young kid. So radio was just a chance to just really show that, without there being a crowd, but there was a crowd on the other end, technically. And it was just really nice. It was an outlet for me to do what I love.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can definitely relate with what you're saying about the whole stuttering thing. But for me, I think the problem that I face is when I do like a newscast, like I'm pre-recording it. Like
Mhm.
I'm pre-recording it in the studio, and the thing is, I find like myself like cringing when I hear myself back.
Same.
Uh, and I keep saying, man, I could have done that better. I could have done this better. I should have put this in that place. Um, do you ever find moments when you're doing that in, I guess, your experience with doing radio? Do you ever experience those moments where you kind of second guess stuff, and then you kind of look at the end of the day and you say, man, maybe I don't regret that.
All the time, and not just with radio, but as an artist, and you can probably relate on this. I think that we live in a world, in a society that just is so quick tear other people down over something so little. And I think living in that world, living in today's society like that, it makes you second guess every single little thing that you do. So in radio, I've actually had this one instance happen where I was doing an ad about those little fans that go around your neck and that blows on your face, and I was joking. I was like, yeah, my dad loves those things. He's out there mowing the lawn looking like a crazy person or like an idiot or something like that, joking about my dad, because we joke like that. And someone had heard that when it played back, and I got a very hateful phone call about how I shouldn't be joking around about my dad like that, and just something so little, like someone took out of context and just totally spun. I guess they didn't have anything better to do. I don't really know. But it was just one of those things, it's hard to show yourself 110% of the time. And that's one of the things that I've struggled with, but I've also really valued that because it's just how you connect with people, and you've got to be that way to have a platform and to use it for good.
Absolutely. If you had any radio broadcasting icons that you've looked up to in the business, who would those people be for you?
For me, it's ironically always been Ryan Seacrest. He started out in radio, and just to see where he is now is so inspiring and amazing. So yeah.
I initially thought you were going to say Bobby Bones.
Oh, him too. Oh, I love him.
Because I'm pretty sure he's from Arkansas.
He is from Arkansas as well, yeah.
I mean, do you watch the Bobby Bones show or listen to it?
I watch little clips on social media.
Do you have a favorite person on I guess on the team wise?
Not that I can recall.
Because honestly, Bobby Bones, obviously, like Bobby Bones is the main guy out of it, but like, I think the funniest person on there is Lunchbox. I don't know about like Lunchbox. I just don't like it, dude. I just really don't like the dude. But aside from that, I want to talk about different things about obviously you were on The Voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I know you from, and that's where a lot of people know you from.
Mm-hmm.
You stepped onto the Voice stage, and you opened your career with The Voice with Angel from Montgomery by John Prine, but also Bonnie Raitt, we have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about why that song. Was there just some connection to it, or did you just grow up loving that song?
It's so funny looking back at that experience. I value it so much. But then I also look back on it and I'm like, who is that girl? Because I've changed so much in my early 20s. But I remember being on The Voice, and I wouldn't say doing it for the wrong reasons, but I was just doing it because everybody else wanted me to do it, if that makes sense. I was just doing it because I thought that that was the right next step for me. I was, graduating high school at the time, and you're young and you don't really know what you want to do, where you want to go. So that was kind of the reason why I did The Voice, which I'm so thankful for. It opened so many doors. And then of course COVID hit afterwards. But with that song, I've always loved Angel from Montgomery, and yeah, there wasn't any particular reason. I just knew that I'd sang it all the time as a kid, and I may as well just sing it on a big stage now.
Well, I mean, if you would like to talk about how I guess what the Voice experience was like,
Mhm.
overall, what was it like for you?
Oh man, 4 years later, looking back on it, it is a little bit of a blur, but overall, it was a beautiful experience. It was beautiful, yet ugly at times. Being so young and away from home for so long, at long periods of time, and just being on such a huge platform, that being your first time doing anything that big, it was very intimidating, very rewarding. Like it was a true mix of beautiful and ugly is all I can say. I lost my grandpa. He was, the most dearest person in my life, and I lost him a couple of days before I flew out for the live shows. And it was just so hard being away from my family and having to postpone his funeral, and just things like that made the experience have a little bit of a dim light on it. But overall, the friendships that I got out of it and the relationships, getting to meet Taylor Swift as the mega mentor, I'll never forget that. And just having John Legend as a coach, I mean, there's just so much about it that I wouldn't take back for the world.
Of course, and obviously, we're gonna talk about Taylor Swift and that moment a little bit after this, but I want to talk about first and foremost. I mean, I'm curious when you're talking about your grandpa and obviously losing him and condolences to your family about that and but I'm curious, was that the moment when you kind of chose the song "Go Rest on the Mountain"? And was that what did that sort of have a connection with whatever you were just saying right now?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I had another song picked for that round, and I think I like as soon as I found out that my grandpa died, I was actually at my family's house, grieving and whatnot, and I remembered I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to change my song and dedicate it to my grandpa." And so that's what I did.
Absolutely, and it's such a heart-wrenching song, but such a powerful song. Vince Gill's "Go Rest on the Mountain," written in tribute to Vince's brother who passed away.
Mhm.
But it's been such a universal song, and I think Vince has talked about it so many times on different interviews that he's done. And people would ask him about it, and he would say, you know, as much as it was a song for my brother, it became a song for everybody who's lost people in their lives and has become this staple song that they sing at their funerals or celebration of life events.
Well, and it's
But
crazy too because that singing that song on that stage inspired me to release my first single after the show that's called Truly Livin'. And I didn't want it to be a super sad song. I wanted it to be a dedication, a celebration of life. And so that is what inspired me to do my single.
absolutely. So I guess when we're going to be talking about Taylor Swift, now, what was it like meeting her, and what was it like being mentored by her?
Well, I remember them saying, we're not going to tell you who the mega mentor is. And we were all like, what the heck? Why not tell us? What if we don't know them? What if it's on camera, like freaking out? Why don't you just tell us? And they didn't. And I just remember just seeing her for the first time walking out. I just honestly, a whole timeline flashback just happened in that moment of just growing up with that woman. I mean, my childhood was filled with every single Taylor Swift song you could ever think of. And it's like getting to meet her. I mean, she's a true hero, a true role model in every single way. And I think that the people who dog Taylor Swift obviously don't know her and haven't even tried to get to know her through the words of her songs or who her interviews. And before you judge a person or an artist, why don't you get to know them a little bit better and do some research? She's amazing.
For sure. And obviously there's been a huge problem right now with Taylor Swift in Canada and the hate towards her with us Canadians because she has obviously skipped out. She has obviously skipped Canada on her international tour, her Eras tour, and now people are really concerned about why she's done that and stuff like that. But I think people are unnecessarily judging her because she skipped out on a thing. But people don't notice. What people don't notice, I guess, is look at how much outfit changes she's doing, the song set list that she's doing every night. It takes a whole toll on an artist to do that on a nightly
Absolutely.
basis. Um,
Well, and two,
so
you never know the true reason. And then, it's not always, I'm sure with Taylor Swift being the huge, not only artist, but businesswoman that she is, she has a whole entourage of people making decisions for her. So, people definitely shouldn't be angry towards her all the time.
of course, and so let's talk about American Idol. Obviously, that's been a great experience for you, to say the least. I remember seeing your audition and you opened with "If It Hadn't Been for Love" by the Steel Drivers, and instantly, the moment you started singing, all I could hear was Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie. Just I don't know, they're freaking out at the judges panel, and really were saying, "What is going on in here?" Um, I mean, to have the validation and to have the compliments that they gave you and the advice that they gave you, looking back now on the experience, how was it on American Idol, and how much do you have appreciation for those judges?
Oh man, I could sit here and talk all day long about how amazing the experience was. And I would say I loved it 10 times better than The Voice. I mean, not to get too deep or anything, but seriously, I feel like it has a lot to do with who you are as a person in that moment of that experience. And for me, I was going through a lot of personal things that was slowly changing me into the young woman that God meant for me to be, if that makes sense. So during that transition, I was doing this big experience called American Idol. And it's funny because watching that initial audition into the very end of the show, I mean, two completely different people, seriously. Like, I look back at my audition, I'm like, I don't even know who that girl is because, now look at me. And I think that it's just that growth and all the things that American Idol gave me. It gave me so many tools in order to become that woman. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience. An experience I wouldn't take, like I literally would do it all over again.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Luke Bryan said a lot of great things about you, and um, he says when he watched you in Showstoppers, it was the first time we heard you kind of get yelly and screamy, and then
Mhm.
you said it was a risk. I felt like it wasn't my best vocally, and then Luke kind of gave you this really personal, like heart-to-heart advice, which I really loved. Seeing that, like, it was, it kind of like made me feel like it wasn't just like Katy Perry and Lionel Richie there. It was just, it felt like it was just you and Luke in that room, and he sat you down and he sort of gave you that advice as someone that's been in the business for a long time. And he sort of told you about, like, how they loved how you've been competing in the country music world, and how your journey of not giving up on going forward is going to get you there someday. Um, what did it mean to hear those words from Luke Bryan? Especially as a guy that's been doing it for quite some time now.
You know, I I really respect the judges, every single one of them. I went into the show, I was like, holy crap, like these are the three best in the business, amazing. And Luke and I really connected because of our country roots. But I will say, um, through this journey, even at the beginning, I knew who I was as an artist. I know exactly who I am as an artist. But sometimes when you get into the music industry a little bit deeper, they try to put you in a box and a lane, and I don't do well with that. I'm very, I'm a person of a lot of self-expression, and if I feel like I can't do that and I can't be fully 100% myself, I'm gonna spiral. And so hearing Luke say that, it was good to hear. It really was. However, in the back of my mind, I was like, but I'm not. I'm not fully country. I'm country pop. I have too many pop influences to be not somewhat pop. And a lot of in my original music and in this upcoming album, you're really going to see who I am. And I don't know if that's going to come to a shock to my fan or come as a shock to my fan base, or if they're going to still love me for it. But overall, you really have to stay true to yourself in this business, no matter what anyone says.
Course, and obviously you've had a lot of singles that have also come out, and I want to talk about that. But today I was listening to one of your singles, Jesus in Jail,
Mhm.
and I was like, man, this sounds like a really like cool pump up song.
Mhm.
Like, it just like it gets you in the mood to keep going and to go faster and to go harder on different things. And then there's a moment in the song where like it kind of gives you the feeling of like, okay, here comes the beat drop, here comes the beat drop, and then it kind of goes out, and it
Mhm.
comes, and then you bring you back into, I guess, the hook of the song, and then the lead up to the actual chorus,
Mhm.
which is really cool. And I loved how I love the grungy drums
Thank you.
in the song. It just gave a whole new level. It's like I was listening to like an Olympic song, like when you hear,
Thank you.
something
Yeah.
in the Olympics, it just gives you that feeling. And I remember watching this TV show called Songland, and I remember them doing an episode about doing a song for the Tokyo Olympics. And I just kept hearing all these grungy drums and just like going hard into the chorus, and it makes you want to go harder and go faster on it. And
Well,
um
and it's funny because like you as a listener, probably just hear what's on the surface, or if you're a deep thinker, you're probably thinking, what is she talking about right there? Or dang, she sounds angry, right? I mean, like Jesus and like that was a real struggle that I had in one of my relationships, and I'm like, God, I need to write a song about this, and I need to just let it all out musically and lyrically. And so my producer, Gabe Neal, you can look him up on Instagram, Beats by Gabriel. But he's so incredible. Like he did a massive production on that, and it was absolutely flawless in my opinion. When I first heard it, I was like, Gabe, you've outdone yourself. Like this is incredible. So I listen to myself in the gym now with that song to keep going and to finish that treadmill.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was doing. I was into that same song while doing the treadmill as well. Here's the thing, like when you hear the song and you listen to it, and you kind of look back on the first audition of American Idol, it kind of was like a whole full circle moment of like a transition. Because it was like, okay, here's Marybeth Bird, innocent. And then here's Marybeth with angst. Where did that come from? And it's a whole new person. I'm like, man, the whole character has stepped up in this song. Um, and
Well,
I know a lot of people would say that, you sound angry in that song, but that's, I guess that's the part of where you start to let go of different things that have been struggling for you, and
well,
that
yeah,
freedom.
yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because and we could talk about this all day long, but just reading the hate comments and stuff of people who don't even know or appreciate the art behind every performance of each performer. Like we don't just get up there to sing. I mean, we get up there with a very, very high intent of what we're performing. And, on that Carrie Underwood song, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being so perfectly I was like, I just want to hit this song and yell. Like, and that's what I did because I needed to in that moment. So.
For sure. And can you talk to me and explain a little bit behind what the creation of that song was like, and how did it become what it was today?
Which one?
What was the process like creating Jesus in Jail, and how did it become what it is today?
Absolutely. So I have this notes document or folder in my notes app on the iPhone called Original Music Portfolio. And any idea that I ever have, even if I think it's so dumb, I will write it down in that portfolio. And I had this thought one time, struggling in a relationship that I had. And I was like, man, like I want to just be such a good, like I really want to be such a good person, but you bring out the worst in me. And not only like, but God, like you have me somewhere between Jesus and jail. Like you make me want to go to jail sometimes. And I thought, wait, that would be a good idea for a song. And so I wrote that song title down. And I went to the songwriting camp in Nashville through some people, and I was writing with all these people. I'd tell them the idea, and they'd be like, not really a fan of it. And I'm like, okay. Well, then I finally got to the right people, and that was Callie and Gabe, and a group that we call MB Dream Team today, the people who are working on my album. Amazing people. I could talk about that all day long too. But Gabe was like, I love that idea. And he just immediately got to work in the studio. And I was like, whoa, like, what is this? How is this happening? And, he's just a big part of what made that song what it is. And all of the writers involved as well, including myself. We just all put our own artistry into it. I'm not closed-minded. I don't go in there and I'm like, I want this, 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 and this. I say to my team, I want everybody on this team to have full creative freedom. And that's where all the magic happens.
For sure. And I was curious on, I guess, also the whole thing with Jesus in Jail, and
Mhm.
then as we're talking about how you kind of like try to ignore the negative part of the comment section. I guess that's what leads up to the song of People Pleaser,
Yeah.
of not wanting to please. Well, you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
And you obviously that's something that we're all aware of. But I'm curious about the Instagram video you posted about 60/20 music, and it seems like you guys were in there writing a song or something like that, in a songwriting session. And for people who are not aware of the video, I will actually put the clip of the video here as well in this interview, in this portion of the interview.
Not sleeping around a blank town. Like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, Taylor but country. Harnessing the Taylor. The answer doesn't end with her like in something neon, like when she says, "But I'll never be gray like you." Oh my gosh, your excitement. Do you hear this? I've been wanting to put violins on my songs for so long. Oh my gosh. The little sample? Yes. Spit on it. We're gonna pretend. Okay, Bridgerton. If it is a violin, we're gonna pretend like it's a fiddle. Break free from your monochromatic view. So tired of your melodramatic hues. I'm in a champagne sun.
Tell us what is going on in the video.
Yeah, so in that video, it actually is taking the audience, my fan base, on the journey to whatever the end goal of this is. And so they're kind of experiencing the whole album creation in real time, which I think is really, really cool. And I wanted them to have that experience. And so in that song, we were writing a song called Addicted. But here's the thing. There's a million songs about being addicted to something or someone, or just addiction in general. There's so many songs. So we tried to take a new approach to that idea and spin it in a way that we've never really heard it spun before. And so in that video, you're watching the creation of that song be made, as well as another song called Gray Like You. And it's just, all of it is going to be put together at the end in one long documentary that's going to be released with the album. So you'll get to literally be like, all of my answers, or all of the answers to my questions are in this video, because Marybeth is taking us along with all of the process. And so it's going to be cool. I'm really working hard to make this as true as any musical piece should be.
Absolutely. And so for the album wise, what can we expect from the album? And do we know what the release date of it is, or is that still coming?
Oh man, what to expect. Honestly, I'm so proud of myself because I am fully showing myself like in full view. I mean, if you've ever had a question about who I am as a person or as an artist, you're gonna figure it out in this album, which I'm super excited before. We're planning on calling it Truth and Grace. And that's exactly what it is. As hard as truth can be to hear sometimes, it just has to be truth every single time. And, I love Jelly Roll for that. There's a lot of controversy surrounding him because of his music, but it literally is just his truth. And he's singing about it, which there's nothing wrong with. We all sin, we all, have our things, and music is a way to just tell every bit of that story. And so I'm going to have an album full of truth with grace sprinkled into every single song. And you're going to hear that.
For sure. And absolutely. Yeah, Jelly Roll is great. He's great. I like what he puts out. It's a new revolution of music now with Jelly Roll. I mean, he's a character as well, but I remember chatting with Charlie Reynolds, who did I think it was a CMT Awards on the red carpet, and she got to interview Jelly Roll, and he already won one award even on the red carpet. And he comes in hot, and he comes in, he's like saying something about 2-time nominated, 3 times something, and he goes Jelly Roll on the red carpet. And he just stole the moment, and he's a great guy, and he releases great music.
I love him. I got to meet him on the show, and he's just so real. And it's so freaking hard to find real people in the music industry that haven't let, the fame and money, go to their head. And Jelly Roll is just a perfect example of a preservation of a genuine human being who struggles just like everybody else. And he's just he has an amazing story, and he's just a great person. And I would literally always vouch for him. I see people hating on him, and I'm like, y'all don't even know. He's amazing. But anyway.
For sure. Well, I mean, as we're wrapping up, one last question for you. If there's any person that is already in heaven that you would want to play a song with, who would it be, and what song would you play?
Oh man. I would have to say I'm a huge Elvis fan, as you are. I can see in the background.
I actually have an Elvis what's it called, blanket. So big fan of Elvis here as well, and I've got a whole bunch of Elvis t-shirts and
Yes.
stuff like that. So
Well, with every artist, there's controversy and whatnot. I'm always going to be a diehard Elvis fan. He was from, Tupelo, Mississippi, and, moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and that's only an hour south of us. And so I grew up with just Elvis being from in that area and just around, which, I mean, obviously he was long gone before I was born, but still, my parents were huge fans, and just him in general. I would love for him to come back and me be like, Elvis, hey buddy.
absolutely. And I have to ask you, have you watched the Elvis film?
Yes, and everybody that I've talked to are not big fans, but I was a huge fan. I went to the movie theater and saw it like 3 times. So
I only saw it once, but I really liked it, even though it felt like it was a whole 3-hour movie, which was not bad. I actually really loved it. The saddest part of it was when Austin Butler, who plays the role of Elvis Presley, who's done an incredible job, and so also the wife, and then the saddest part was when he came out of the jet, and Can't Help Falling in Love by Casey Musgraves, heartbreaker of a song. And he comes in to greet his wife and his daughter, and then takes off in the jet, and that's the last time Elvis was seen alive. That was a heartbreaking moment, but it's a great film for people who haven't watched it. Go watch it. It's a must see. If you're not an Elvis fan, watching that movie will give you first time experiences to know what the story was, from beginning to end, and it's a really good biopic, I guess, if you would say. But thank you so much for chatting with me. I had such a blast to be able to explore this whole journey with you and your new music. And feel free to come back on whenever you have the album out.
I would love to. This is an honor and a pleasure speaking with you, and I appreciate you for having me.
Well, to the listeners who made it this far into the episode, thanks so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with American country singer-songwriter, NBC The Voice Season 17, and American Idol Season 21 contestant Marybeth Bird. You can connect with Marybeth on all her social media platforms. You can find me on all podcast streaming platforms. I've been your host, Jigme Kelsang. Thanks for tuning into the show.